Hey everybody! Welcome to this week's Say Report. It is me, Sejohn Sarowick, and I am here with my host companion.
Devon Decker.
Oh man, that pregnant pause. I
Dude,
was I
well,
was
I was
confused for a
considering.
moment.
Well, first of all, you got to make him wait. The longer the wait, the more like exciting and tantalizing and titillating the payoff. I learned this
Excellent.
by watching The Big Bang Theory, where Raj now works at a planetarium, and I can't believe I pulled that joke off.
Man.
And at the very end, like the pause kept getting longer and longer. Beth
Oh
Bears was
gosh.
in that episode. I love Beth Bears, and I really hope she finds a project now that Two Broke Girls is over.
Is she the other broke girl? Is that who that is?
Yeah, not Kat Dennings, Beth
Not
Bears.
Kat Dennings. Yeah. Okay.
You can see more Beth Bear in American Pie: The Book of Love, now streaming on Netflix. Have you
Oh
seen The
man.
Book of Love?
No, that is
That's
one
the
of the
seventh one.
many ones I haven't seen. I think I saw up till were they Beta House? Was that
Beta
American
Heist
Pie?
was American Pie, yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw up to that one. I definitely saw Bandcamp.
Okay,
I definitely saw. I
so
think I saw more of the like straight to DVD ones than I've actually seen of the mainline
the
American
straight to
Pie
DVD
movies.
ones are the best ones. I said it, want to fight about it. I made
I
it
don't know.
work.
American Wedding was pretty good, but I
American
think that was
Wedding,
the
I
last
think,
one I
is the
saw.
best. But here's the reason: those movies were always Stifler's fucking movies.
Well, yeah.
And American Wedding is the first one where they're like, "Why are we focusing on Jim? Stifler is clearly the most compelling character." So he,
Well, and part of that is because Sean William Scott is just the most compelling actor in those movies.
yes, I mean he's interesting. Like he's sort of the like manic pixie dream girl, for want of a better term, to that group of people.
Yeah.
Like Jim and the guy from Rookie of the Year and Shipbreak and Oz.
Yeah. Why do it's that's not
Kevin.
Chris
Kevin
O'Donnell.
is the name of the Rookie of the Year kid's character.
No, 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 not him.
Oh,
The dude that plays
oh shit, what is that
what's
guy's
his
name?
nuts?
Chris
He plays
Elliott.
the douchebag.
Not
Yeah,
Chris
no,
Elliott.
not Chris Elliott. He plays the
That's Cabin
douchebag in
Boy.
Just Friends. It's
He's
Chris
not
Klein.
Chris
Chris
Klein.
Klein, and
Yeah.
he's the guy who fucks his sister, right? Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
in Say Anything. No, Say It Isn't So.
Say it isn't so. Say anything
That's
different.
very different. R.I.P. John Mahoney. That's
Oh
very
man,
sad.
yeah.
But he doesn't say anything, but not Say It Isn't So. But
Well,
yeah,
good for him. Good for John Mahoney doing it right in his career.
Chris Klein. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
Man, remember
man.
when we all thought Chris Klein might be a leading man for a second,
And
and
then
then
he
we
was in A Walk in the Clouds, or A Walk to Remember. A Walk in the Clouds is Keanu Reeves.
yeah, man, you're doing real. You're firing on all cylinders
Dude,
tonight. You're doing real well.
I'm sorry. You know what, Sejohn? Well, here's the deal. We titled last week's episode "What If" and Elseworlds. I don't know if we ever discussed what you wanted to talk about regarding those things.
And so it's completely thrown you off for like a week now.
And in addition to that, I like the only movie that I have bothered and busied myself with has been the 50 Shades of Grey, 50 Shades
Damn.
Darker, and 50 Shades
Well,
Freed.
as this is our Valentine's episode, I feel like maybe that's where we should start then.
Excellent. So when this show started, Sejohn and I made a promise. Sejohn,
Oh
having
yes.
never seen any of the 50 Shades movies, and I, having only seen 50 Shades of Grey, said if there was ever an opportunity to see the trilogy in theaters, we would go together, right? Come hell or high water, come
Yeah.
another Chris Pine movie, we'd make it work.
And I did I kept my promise in the most say report way possible.
By not keeping his promise. But, you know
I
what?
pretty instantly giving up on that promise.
Yeah, the second we promise to do something means that it's not going to happen.
Well, no, no, no. Anytime we promise it in context of this show, it's not a promise. It's a say report promise.
He's not wrong. So yeah, so we did make a say report promise, but I was not going to miss the opportunity to see all of these movies in the theater because I really like 50 Shades of Grey. It was just such a weird experience. I saw it on Valentine's Day 2015. That
Yeah, and I
was
feel
the
like
year.
you and I have. And I don't remember if we've done this on air yet or not, but we've. I feel like you at least are like have heard me air my grievances about that like series. But yeah, so you had seen it and I did not bother, and you had weird mixed feelings about the first one.
About the first one because like, all right, all it is first of all spoilers for all of these movies, right? If you have any desire to see 50 Shades of Grey, 50 Shades Darker, or 50 Shades Freed, get to getting because I'm gonna ruin everything right now.
Man, it is a real paradigm shift in my head to have to consider the fact that somebody out there might care about spoilers for these movies.
The
But like
crazy thing
now,
is,
but now knowing what I know about you and what happened with this series, I have to believe these people exist.
not only do these people exist, right? The crazier thing is that there might be somebody out there listening to this who was into those movies and hasn't seen them yet.
Hmm.
That's the thing that I find hard to believe.
Right.
Because there is no way, after seeing the end of 50 Shades Darker, that you are not eagerly awaiting the conclusion coming in 50 Shades Freed.
Hmm.
To the point and the extent, Sejohn, that they pull a fucking Back to the Future Part 2 and put scenes of the third movie in the credits.
Oh
There
man.
is a mid-credit trailer for 50 Shades Freed. And
Oh
it is the
God, that's
coolest
marketing at
fucking
its
thing. Oh my,
worst.
it's the best. That's
Oh
marketing
God.
at its best.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I guess Marty McFly gets to the Wild West.
yeah. Oh God, man. Okay,
Okay,
so 50 Shades, your new Back to the Future trilogy. How do you
dude,
feel
you
about
know
it?
well, they're the closest thing that like modern kids are gonna have to the Back to the Future trilogy. And what I mean when I say that
Okay, good.
is
Explain yourself.
the first movie was made, and then it was like consciously decided that the second and third movie were going to be shot in tandem.
Right.
Because they really feel like Darker and Freed feel like one movie.
Hmm.
The same way that Back to the Future 2 and 3 feel like one movie.
Now, can I say that, like, and you can totally correct me if I'm wrong about this, but it feels like that happened for two different reasons with those series, though, right? With Back to the Future, it felt like they were like, all right, this is clearly something that people like lots of people love. Let's cash in on this quick, right? Whereas with 50 Shades, it felt almost like, all right, not as many people love this as we thought, so let's do this quick to cash in on it now, right? Like, it felt almost like that was just like
So
it was.
100%, the fact that they took a year off between 50 Gray and Darker is
Mhm.
insane. But
Yeah,
like I
yeah, yeah.
said, Gray is not a great movie. I
Right.
was still blubbering like a schoolgirl at like the romantic scenes. Like that movie hit me in a way that I did not expect or remember
Well, and the
from that
impression
first
that I
time I
get, and
watched it.
like, yeah, and we should definitely elaborate as much as possible that I have not seen a stitch of any of these movies, but like the impression that I got from the zeitgeist after the first one came out was that it was not the worst movie that year by any stretch. Like it was a totally serviceable film. It's that the source material, the franchise itself, just was never going to be able to elevate itself above what it always was, which was just like a well packaged romance novel,
Right.
right?
That's
Like that's the impression that I got, was that it was a perfectly serviceable film. It's just that kind of movie that just doesn't have that wide of an audience. Like that's just not what sells anymore. Early 90s, this movie would have been fucking baller and would have been like, I mean, like you would have had A-list actors in it and we would have been talking about this movie for a decade, right? But now it's just kind of like
you're not wrong about that. Like, and here's the thing: is they clearly decided this movie is these books are popular, right?
right,
And we can look at these books as from an objective standpoint, and are they popular because of the sex stuff, or are they popular because of the romance stuff?
right,
So
right,
they
right.
had an opportunity and a choice to make in that first movie as to what of those they're going to focus on. Are we going to make a fucking
That
smut film? Or are we
yeah.
going to focus on the romance?
All
What is
right,
going
all
to
right.
sell better?
I I like that conversation. I think that's an interesting one.
And I think 100% they decided we're going to focus on the romance part of this.
Okay.
And I think that that's why that first movie, even though it did well enough that the second and third movie still happened, but it didn't do it. But the critiques of it, the complaints about it, they're like, all right, so we need to take a step back and we need to focus up and we need to make sure that the second movie and the third movie we have 100% fallen on the side of romance.
Hmm.
Because like unfortunately, that the BDSM stuff still enters into the story a lot in the first movie, but
Right.
like it's so defanged that it almost has no meaning at all.
Well,
Like
and that was always one of the big critiques of the book was that it came again, it came around 10 years too late. Like the conversations that it treats as taboo are not taboo to our culture anymore. I weirdly know more about the books than I do about the movies because of the nature of them existing as like a Twilight fanfic and all that sort of stuff. But like that was always one of the things that I felt about this whole series, that it's talking about subjects in a risque manner that like not even my mom considers risque anymore, right? Like
right, and I think that's the thing is that there are some people also from that first movie who don't read books, right?
right.
Truman
Okay. Yeah,
Capote
yeah.
said it best. It'll make an excellent movie. And there are people who are never going to read the 50 Shades of Grey books, but they're like, oh, all this fucking sex and shit. I can't wait to see the movie.
Right.
So they went out and saw it, and they're like, this is fucking nothing. This is our Thursday weekly. Like, what are you talking about? This is
Right.
tantalizing and frightening. So, like, it didn't sell on the sex. But one of the other critiques that I always hear from this is that it's a poor representation of that community. And here's the
Yeah.
biggest spoiler. It's a poor representation of that community because Christian fucking Grey is a broken person who was sexually assaulted at 15 and then entered into a 6-year relationship with his attacker. And from
Right.
that built his idea of what a sexual encounter was.
Hmm.
So that's
Right.
why it's not correct based on real world BDSM or submissive dominant relationships.
Yeah, and I think that people in that community understand that, but I think that's exactly their problem is that there's a lot of assumptions outside of that community that that's the only way essentially you're talking about stereotyping. Like they feel like it is a stereotype of a man in that situation and that the only way that people get into BDSM is if they've somehow have been traumatized at some point in their life. And the idea that like that there are people out there that enjoy that lifestyle that don't necessarily suffer a trauma. It's much in the same way that people used to talk about homosexuality only existing because like people were traumatized when they were young. And it's like, no, I was born this way. Like I wasn't turned into this or created this. There are definitely people out there that have that storyline, but to treat that storyline as the storyline of people in that community is where the problem comes in. And I think that's where it is that everybody was treating the book series as if it was like a sexual awakening for mothers in the Midwest when they read the 50 Shades of Grey thing. And the problem with that community that community had with those books was like, well, if this is their introduction to this community and their representation of this community, we've got a problem because this does not represent us. Right.
I think maybe, but
Like
also
I get like the idea that there's justification for his character to be the way that it is, but you got to be careful with those justifications because the problem is that there's no counter to that representation in those books to be like not everybody's like this, but this is just happens to be why
okay, but
he's
there's
like
definitely
this.
a counter to it in the
Okay, so
movies. So that's where I'm curious. Do I have to read these fucking books now? That's my biggest fear after watching the movies is if I need to read the books and see how big a difference there is between the two.
yeah,
Because sort of the thing is that Anastasia Steele is into that type of stuff. Like all the stuff that they do, she's a freaking virgin when they meet each other, right?
right.
But then like that the kind of stuff that they're doing, she does get off on and she does enjoy. And what it really is that because he found someone who actually challenges him on a mental, physical, and emotional level, he's able to get rid of all that negative stereotyping and enter into a healthy BDSM relationship. Like that's
Okay.
sort of one of the themes of the trilogy is that like once he addresses like why he's like the way that he is, she still encourages him to be like, yeah, but like I enjoy this stuff, right?
Yeah,
Like
and
it's
and I bet you that comes through really naturally in the movies, but in the books, it's not. It doesn't feel natural. In the books, what it feels like is reactionary to the community being like, "Whoa, you need to correct this." So, like the first book, none of that's there. Then the second book, it's like she starts to get the point, and then by the time she's writing the third one, maybe that's how that relationship exists. Right. So, like, as a writer, she grows to learn more about that community and corrects herself by the end of the series. Then, by the time they come in and make the movies, that correction's already existed. So they have the privilege in the first one of knowing where it's going to end, so they can make that story work. That's not what happens in the books. I can tell you,
All
promise
right.
you that right now.
Okay. So yeah, I guess the biggest question I have is because I was discussing the lifestyle and the books and all that with some people over the weekend, and they're like there are contracts involved, and I'm like, there's a contract involved in the first movie, like it's actually one of the better scenes in it because clearly this is not sexy time. This is us sitting down as two adults who are going to willingly enter into this type of relationship, and I want there to be ground rules, and I want us to know where we're starting from so that neither one of us gets hurt and that there's
Yeah.
more pleasure than pain.
Yeah, well, maybe what it is maybe the movies do like benefit from the idea of first of all the community's reaction and then a supplemental involvement in like the books being written, right? And like it sounds to me like what you're talking about is the books seem the movies seem to be much more mature, for lack of a better word, than the books ever were, and that's a good thing. Like that's exciting to hear. Like I'm glad that I mean what we're talking about is literally the movie improving on the book, which we never get to talk about.
Right, and that's why I'm curious. And then you say that you know more about the books, so like all those moments, I'm like, I don't understand how you could look at this and be like, what a poor representation of this lifestyle. Because I always thought that it handled it very adult and very this, and it's sort of like it differentiated the fact that he's the way that he is from the pleasure that he gets out of it
Mm-hmm.
because like he is pained the first time that he like treats Anastasia the way that he would have treated anyone who came before her. Like there's levels to these movies
Yeah,
that
man. I
I
mean,
think
there's
that
a
I don't
definite Beauty and the
expect at
Beast
all. Yeah,
subtext. Yeah.
it's a fairy tale. It's a modern day fairy tale, like 100%. And
Oh yeah.
my favorite complaint was, what about the stalking overtones in the movies? And I'm like, yeah, that's just a problem with movies, though, right? Like,
Right.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure
It's
Jack
definitely
got on the fucking Titanic because he saw Kate
right.
Winslet.
Right. Exactly. There's definitely something to be said about stalking overtones in that series, but we should also be talking about the weird stalking overtones of every romantic
Yeah,
storyline, right? Like
there's a
the idea that
problem. We
there's
have a fucking
always
stalking problem in our
yeah yeah
fucking literature.
yeah. Hmm.
The, the,
Yeah,
the,
it's definitely like a weird thing that comes up a lot. Like, I mean, people talk about The Graduate now as being like hard to watch because there is a lot of stuff that gets done and said in that movie that nowadays would be considered like total like no goes. Like you don't allow this guy to be in your house. Like, what are you doing?
Also, 100%, The Graduate is hard to fucking watch because they play Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme like 4 times in a row. And it's like, Jeff keeps talking about, like, I think it's 1,000 Spikes, I think is the game he's playing on Steam. And he's like, I could play that game, except that every time you die, the music starts over from the beginning. And that is what happens in The Graduate. Is that like you hear a little bit of
Every time Dustin Hoffman dies, you hear Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. No, what?
no, Scarborough Fair. You hear like a little bit of Scarborough Fair, and then it cuts to
I can't
another
think of their
scene.
names right now. It's
and
not
then-
Hall and Oates. What is it? Simon and Garfunkel. Oh my god.
That was excellent. All of that. Oh man, I wish Hall and Oates had like written the Simon and Garfunkel catalog.
They're the
'Cause their
Rosencrantz and
voices-
Oates of music.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern was my favorite. That's because we're talking about a Dustin Hoffman movie.
There it
That's
is.
all
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
gonna say. Like, and we're not gonna elaborate. Everybody knows what I'm implying. But
So you go and see all three of these movies in a row this weekend. Is that like
so here's the deal. And
Yeah.
with apologies to David Howard, there is a new
Yeah.
6 hours of pure perfection. And it is the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy. Come at me, bro. Because as good as the BBC Pride and Prejudice is, and it is quite good, if you were to watch 50 Shades of Grey, wait a week, watch 50 Shades Darker, wait a week, and watch 50 Shades Freed, I don't think it would have the same emotional impact as when you watch them one after another. Because,
yeah, you want the Zack Snyder cut, don't you? Just all of them
dude,
just spliced.
Oh my god. Yes, I do. I don't care. I mean, it's basically what I got. There was 15 minutes between each movie. It was enough time to go to the bathroom and refill my soda. It was excellent. It was
That's
excellent. And you know why? So, like, and these movies, I can't think of another movie series that's been so good at breadcrumbing. Really, that's just foreshadowing, but I
Yeah,
called
yeah,
it breadcrumbing. Like events. Like there's no twist or turn that happens in the whole of this 5 hour and 47 minute saga that you don't have like, oh, that explains that. Oh, that's why that happened. Like it's really well done and well built.
yeah. Well, oh God, good for Christian and Anastasia. I guess. I just demand like it's just one of those things I'm just never gonna be able to get behind.
And you know what? I
Like,
can understand that. But here's the thing: you don't go out and trumpet an opinion when you haven't watched it.
yeah,
Your speech is, "This just not for me. Can we move on?"
yeah.
You're not there
It's not
like,
even like a move on thing. It's just it's more of like an apology. Like I feel bad that I'm never gonna be able to meet you on this level with this movie
dude, come on.
series.
I don't think anyone will ever be able to meet me on the level that I'm at with this movie series. If I'm being like complete hand to God about it, is like they affect me and they hit me in a way that like I am surprised. Like I started to like bawl during the first movie, and I'm like, I don't remember this happening at all the first time I saw this movie. Why am I crying? And it's
Yeah, man.
because like I wasn't watching it out of like morbid curiosity. I was watching it from a place of like legitimate excitement that I was going to see their whole story. And you
Yeah.
can talk about how like stalkerish it is that he shows up at the bar when she drunk calls him, but it's also like kind of nice because she shows up and she's like, no, you shouldn't have come here. Like she doesn't like immediately cream in her jeans because Christian Grey came. Her initial response is that she's upset that he came to get her when she
Yeah.
called him drunk. And then a guy like tries to kiss her even though she's saying no, and he pushes that guy away, and then he says, I'm going to take you home. And that's it. Now, yes, the next morning, problematic alert, she wakes up in his hotel room. Her clothes have been changed.
Yeah. Weird.
And she's
Weird.
like that. But then, even then, he's like, yeah, I'm sorry that I had to change your clothes, but they were covered in vomit. So, like,
Yeah, man. But like what it seems like is the movie is doing swinging really hard to try and correct a lot of the
and it
problems that people had with
and
the
it
books.
works then. But
Yeah,
based
yeah,
100% on the way I view the movies, it works swimmingly. Especially because she does not like anytime that he shows up in one of those stalker moments, like she's working at the hardware store and there's Christian Grey, like she's initially kind of freaked out. And then, she's at
yeah.
the
It's at least
bar
noted.
and she's drunk and she goes to delete his number and instead calls him to be like, you're mean. I don't know why you treat me the way you treat me. And he's like, well, you're clearly drunk. Where are you? I'll send a car to take you home. And she's like, no, you're drunk. And he's like, all right, well, I know where you are. I'm going to be there in 10 minutes. Like, find
Yeah,
my
yeah.
iPhone.
I mean, like, like I can't help but fall back on the whole movie out of time feeling.
Yeah,
Like, it
yeah,
really just
it
feels
really
like,
is. Yeah,
yeah.
it's like
And
a
I
drama.
wonder,
It's like a fantasy, and it's
I almost wonder if there's like a way to watch it that way. That is just like, just completely like, not a spoof, but like an homage to like those old romance movies of like, you just don't get like the sexy thrillers anymore that you used to, like Basic Instinct and stuff like that.
so
Fatal
I think
Attraction.
if you're able to, Fatal Attraction is not a sexy thriller. Fatal
No,
Attraction is a
what's the
horror
one I'm thinking?
story.
No, no, no. Yeah,
Basic
Basic Instinct is
Instinct.
the one I'm thinking of, right?
Yeah, you think of
Yeah,
yeah. You said Sharon Stone. I knew what you meant.
that one. Yeah,
That's the thing. So you have to. It's setting it against our modern world is the problem where I think people just can't jive it. Because I don't think you're wrong. I mean, it works for me, but then again, I watch movies from all over. Like I'm going to see the Philadelphia Story next weekend, and that
right.
movie doesn't work in the modern world, but it 100% works when it was shot. Same with
Yeah,
like An Affair to Remember. Like that, oh, we met and hooked up on a cruise ship and now we're together. Like, no, people would be like, that's not how love really works. You go on a Tinder date and maybe you get their last name. Marriage.
Yeah, man. No, I did not spend my time watching 50 Shades this weekend.
No. So
No.
that's it. But so the finale, I enjoyed all three 50 Shades of Grey. If you can watch them as one big chunk, that is the preferred way to experience them. But let's move past it. That's the end of the Grey Report section of this episode. Sejohn?
Oh, you were just dying to get
dude,
that out
I've been
there.
sitting on that since I saw the movie. I've been like,
Well,
the Grey Report's gonna happen. Because I'm
That's
50
excellent, man.
Shades of fucked up, Anna.
Jesus.
That happens. That happens in the first movie, and no one doesn't laugh. Like, you feel bad for him, but this entire theater laughs at because I'm 50 Shades of fucked up, Anna. Like, why would you say it like that? It's only because this movie is called 50 Shades of Grey, isn't it?
Oh my god. See, you say things like that, and that's where I groan, and that's where I'm just like,
But
no.
dude, okay, but that's what I'm saying. But that's the thing that I didn't focus on is that the first movie, it's one director and it's a different screenwriter. But then the second and third, they have changed screenwriters who like understands how to add the necessary gravitas to this story, and like
Right.
not have shit like I'm 50 Shades of fucked up. Like it makes it compelling and like there's action. It's a sexy thriller. That is the best way to describe it. Like when they're getting chased and Anna's driving like an Audi and she has to cut between two logging trucks. Because of course, that's all that's driving around in Seattle.
Well, of course, it's a chase scene, and so there has to be trucks around, and if you want it to be really dangerous, it's going to be trucks with stuff that can fall off.
Yep.
Like that's the rules of car chases. Even in sexy movies, when there's crazy action chase sequences, like there needs to be something silly like that.
My favorite thing about the movie is that Christian Grey, in his childhood bedroom, has a Chronicles of Riddick poster.
No.
Like that's
Whoa.
like I'm like he fucking loves Riddick.
Yeah,
like, that
but
became a
no
joke.
other Vin Diesel character though. Forget the Fast and the Furious movie. Character
And he's
he
not a
focused
big
on
fan
was
of Pitch Black
Zone.
because there's not enough shades of gray.
No. All right, that's it. We're done. That conversation's over now. You've used that joke twice in
Dude,
different
but
contexts,
come on.
and we're
Now
done.
I'm waiting on the Chronicles of Riddick joke. He loves the Chronicles of Riddick. The only thing that didn't show up in his childhood bedroom that really would have done it for me is a Super Nintendo. Like, if Christian Grey had had a Super Nintendo prominently displayed, I would have been like...
My childhood was really fucked up. I had a SNES.
I wanted a Sega Genesis. You know,
I
blast
went,
processing.
It's
but I
the
got
worst
Mode
abuse a
7.
child could suffer. I was a Sega kid, and they bought me a Nintendo. It fucked me up for life.
That's why
man.
I'm 50 Shades of fucked up, Anna. I'm having
Okay.
trouble blast processing what happened to me as a child.
Oh god. Oh man. Wow. Well,
How
good
do you
for
follow
Devon.
that
I'm
up,
glad.
Sejohn?
I'm trying to think of a good segue, and there is no good segue out of 50 Shades of Grey. Like it is the end all be all apparently. No, I did not spend my weekend watching 50 Shades. I spent my weekend punishing myself in other ways. Wait, no, that's not the best way to put it.
Eating McDonald's.
Yeah, that's all I did is I sat around and just like scarfed down as much crappy fast food as I could.
Well, okay,
no,
so-
I've been hiding from the snow. I mean, that's really the biggest thing that I've been doing this
Before we
weekend.
go any further, just because it will work and it will transition you into this, Dale today started reading a book called Bad Feminist. And
Hey, excellent.
And one of the essays is about 50 Shades of Grey. And the SAT analogy is that 50 Shades of Grey is to BDSM like McDonald's is to food. So if you wanted to punish yourself, McDonald's was the way to go. So you were avoiding snow all weekend. What was that like?
Oh man,
Were you like
I
a
don't know
dog?
if anybody's been paying attention, but we were supposed to get hit with like storm of the century this weekend up here in the Northwest Ohio, and it amounted to fuck all, Devin, fuck all. So I like made all these plans on Thursday night, did all of my bread and milk shopping, buckled down for the weekend, and then nothing fucking happened. It was the weirdest fucking weekend of my life, man, because I was sitting around waiting to like see this storm occur, and it just wouldn't happen. It would snow for like all of 10 minutes and then it would stop. And everybody was freaking out because they're like, it's coming. And they, they straight up put out like crazy weather alerts and everything out in the city. And they were just like, don't go outside. Everybody's going to die if you step outside. And then nothing. So it was a very surreal weekend where I was just like staying indoors, trying to avoid getting hurt by something I didn't believe truly existed. It was a weird experience.
So basically, you were Catholic for a weekend.
um, yeah, I was watching overhead every minute. Yeah, man. So like I ended up playing a bunch of like weird video games and checking out a bunch of cool Netflix stuff and getting into things. Hulu picked up Better Off Ted. That was like one of my big events this weekend. Like I was super into rewatching that.
If you're into Jay Harrington, I don't know if it's on Hulu, but he is in SWAT playing the role of Deacon in the remake, and he is. I love Jay Harrington.
I really like him. He's like he's kind of like George Clooney's little brother. Like that's what he always feels like to me. Like
well, he'll never not be Stu to me because he was bus driver Stu in Pete and Pete.
That's
and he
awesome.
will never not be that. And
well,
so good.
I fell in love with that show when it first came out. Like what was it? Like 5 years ago at this point? 6 years ago?
Better Off Ted. I think we were in college when that show came out.
Maybe.
I think it's like 10 years. I think it was 2008.
Maybe what it was about 5 or 6 years ago when Netflix picked it up, and maybe that's when I first saw it. Yeah. Like like my entire idea of television in the last 10 years is completely warped because of the way that streaming services have made me like rewatch and watch new things, and like the idea that I don't watch any season when it's on TV. I wait until it pops up on Netflix and then I watch the season in its entirety. Has put me in this really weird space where I think about everything as a summer show now, even though I know that half of it comes out in September and I just don't watch it till till the summer. But man, yeah, like so my sense of when things came out and how old things are is completely warped now. Like I'm screwed forever because of Netflix and Hulu.
I'm sure whatever you said was interesting, but I was beautiful minding to try to figure out when Better Off Ted came out. It was definitely 2008 because The Class was 2006, and that's where I was introduced to Andrea Martin, who plays the weird love interest in Better Off Ted. I can't think of her name.
Linda,
yes. But Andrea Martin, right? Like who knows Andrea Martin's name? This guy. Because
nice.
she was in The Class, where we also got introduced to John Bernthal. Because they had a nice relationship. Have you ever seen The Class? Is The Class available anywhere? Because Jesus fucking Christ, Sejohn, you should just sit down and tip to tail watch The Class. Everyone
what kind of
should
like
do
what
that.
What genre are we talking about here?
It's a comedy.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a CBS comedy.
Especially a John Bernthal comedy. Yeah, okay.
It was the CBS comedy that CBS was like, this is what's going to follow How I Met Your Mother. This is the show that will follow how. This is our 8:30 on Monday show. It's 19 episodes. Let me just tell you who's in this show, okay? So I've already told you John Bernthal and Andrea Martin, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if I told you Jason fucking Ritter was in this show?
What?
What if I told you that Lizzie fucking Kaplan is in this show?
Jesus, this is an insane
What if
cast.
I told you that Jesse Tyler Ferguson is in this show? What if I told you that Lucy fucking Punch is in this show?
What the hell is this show?
So here's the premise of The Class, right? Jason Ritter is going to propose to his girlfriend, and it turns out that they were in third grade together, and then they reconnected years later at college, right?
Okay,
So this is also super indicative of like Facebook culture, right? So what he does the night that he's going to propose to her is he contacts everybody from their third grade class and invites them over to be there.
Okay.
at the engagement party. So it's basically a bunch of friggin' strangers.
Right.
So like John Bernthal is excited because he thinks it's his chance to reconnect with Andrea Martin because they had dated in high school and then just fell apart. So he's like, I'm going to go to this weird party, whatever. And then Jesse Tyler Ferguson is excited because it's his chance to meet up with the girl that he liked, who's Lizzie Kaplan's sister, who literally, I do not know her name because she is the only one who did not go on to bigger and better things.
Weird. Cool, though.
Yeah. So, like, and so they all come together and he proposes and the woman says no and reveals that she's been cheating on him. So now Jason Ritter, as, like, his support group, it turns out to be, like, members of his third grade class because he lost all of his friends in the breakup. So they're it. So, like, him and Lizzie Kaplan, like, she's like, yeah, we'll be friends, right? And I'll help you get out of this funk. And then stuff happens. Meanwhile, John Bernthal's character is a contractor, and Andrea Martin is married to, like, a former famous quarterback. And at the party, he hires John Bernthal to do work at their house. So it's like that perfect opportunity where I can see this girl. And then Jesse Tyler Ferguson goes, Sarah Gilbert's in the show. That's like a late season reveal. But oh my God, I forgot that she's Jesse Tyler Ferguson's wife in the show. God. But, like, he ends up taking the girl that he liked, he takes her home, but they get into a car accident. So she is in, like, a full freaking Vinny Pazienza neck brace situation. And he agrees to take care of her as she gets better as, like, the opportunity to spend time with her. But he's married. Oh, you know who else is in the fucking show? You know who else?
I feel like the show isn't real. I'm gonna I'm gonna go back and try and find this. I'm gonna find out
who plays Robin Hood in Once Upon a Time. He was the lead guy in 300 Spartans. Not 300. Meet the Spartans. Sean something.
Will Sasso. No, what?
He's in the show too.
That's awesome.
Like, it's all of these people who, like, have become synonymous going forward as actors, and they all showed up in the class. This 19-episode series that, like, went fucking nowhere, and I have watched start to finish no less than 4 times.
Well, I'll definitely have to check them out.
Dude, oh my
God.
God.
You go.
I am recommending the class to everyone. I'm so excited. Dude, yeah, because Andrea Martin, like, you think she's good as Linda. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I am sorry. I'm going to watch the class tonight.
Amazing.
I can do 19 episodes, right? Yeah, I got this. Half hour, yeah, so 22 minutes.
Okay.
So I'd rather do math in my head. 40. So that means 3 episodes. Well, no, 3 episodes is an hour. So then it's 6 hours and 22 minutes. Watch the class, everybody. I'm pretty sure it's on Hulu. It'd be crazy if it wasn't. Because I was in my, like, heyday of piracy, have all of them on a hard drive.
Yeah, I bet you it's going to be one that's hard to find because it sounds like it has a lot of really good people in it, which means that nobody has the rights to it. Everybody has the rights to it, so nobody has the rights to it.
I don't know, but dude, I'm going to watch the class. I'm sorry that, like, I forgot there are listeners, and I just, like, geeked out about the class this season. You will not be disappointed. It's such a good show.
I am. I'm excited, man. I'm crazy excited because I love getting this sort of stuff because that's what I'm trying to find right now. Is so I've been doing my my rewatching of the Arrowverse stuff, and I kind of just got to the end on all of that. I haven't seen any current season of any of it because, like I was saying earlier, I'll wait till the summer to watch it. But I've been trying to find something to kind of fill that void, and so I've been thinking about going back and checking out some stuff like that one season of Constantine with Matt Ryan that kind of ended up going nowhere, but like it gave the world Matt Ryan as Constantine, so I definitely have to finish it up. I want to get caught up on Preacher and Lucifer, and so like trying to find like something in between all of those 1-hour shows though, like so that's where Better Off Ted's been coming in handy. I'm glad to have another one. Like this is really cool because I don't know, this year is not firing on all cylinders for me, like TV late editions like the last couple of years has. AP Bio has been pretty cool so far.
Oh my God, how good was it? The first wait, first of all, there's a character named Devon and there's a dude with the surname Decker. That I'm in. I'm freaking in.
Yeah. No, it's good. I'm just I'm not sure where it's going yet.
It's not sure where it's going yet. Let's talk about the fact that AP Bio, they did a preview episode on the 1st of February. and then
Yeah.
the other 2 episodes were available streaming wise. Like Hulu had
Right.
2 and 3, and like the NBC streaming app. So I watched them. Like against my better
Yeah.
judgment, I'm like, that first episode was so incredibly good that
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to watch. I don't even care.
It
But
is
then
good. It's just like it's so it's not. I guess you're right. It doesn't even really know what it is yet, right? But then that second episode,
that
there's
second
such a
episode is not the second episode at all. The third episode was clearly meant to be the second episode because they
okay.
introduce you to the secretary, and it feels a lot like the pilot. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but like the pilot is usually its distinct thing, but then the second episode, because a lot of the time that's the first episode that people are going to see, they do like a sort of like mini pilot recap.
Yeah, and there's clearly more money behind it because at that point the show has proven itself and gotten advertisers, and
Yeah.
from when they filmed the pilot. So yeah, the second episode always has a distinctly different feel.
Right. But it's the second episode that they show, which is him in teacher jail, was
Yes.
clearly not meant to be the second episode aired.
Okay. All right.
Because
yeah, I guess I see that.
especially
Yeah.
because the secretary plays such a substantial role in that episode, and then the next episode, the one that they're calling it season 1 episode 3, is when she's introduced. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, what are you
That's
guys
weird.
doing? Why are you doing this? And you also have the Dan Decker character in that episode is like, I don't understand what you're doing. I don't know why I'm in AP Bio. So he's kind of acting as the Diane Chambers for the show to be redescribed to. Like he's
Right,
supposed to be that audience surrogate.
Nice. Very nice.
Well, it's just, it's basic sitcom like 101.
Right. Right. Well, and so the episode that they call the second episode, but I guess you're saying you like kind
I
of
wouldn't be
establishes itself as the
surprised
third.
if, well, it's not even, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like
a late
fifth,
season,
like later
Yeah.
in the season type stuff.
I don't know. The way they introduced Niecy Nash, and from what I understand, she's such a big part of this season. I feel like it's at least the third episode.
Okay, it's probably it's probably in the beginning 4. I would.
So, but the thing is that episode is definitely my favorite out of them because like there's so much heart in that episode that is like under the surface in the other two, but never quite comes out in the way that it does in that. Like the way that they establish some depth to the relationship between him and Patton Oswalt's character, the vice principal there, or the principal. I mean, it is like that's what I want more of out of that show. Like the way that they kind of get into his relationship with the dude in teacher jail, and there's almost a weird, distinctly like darkly loving element to it that I don't think I've really seen since some of the best episodes of Community. You know, like Community is one of the few shows, and Rick and Morty does it too, I think, but less so because of how dark it gets. But there's an idea in Community that the world is an upsettingly dark place, but as long as you got friends, you can make it, right? Like that's a lot of what that show bases its more fluffier storylines on, right? And so, and I love those episodes. Like that's like Abed's Christmas special is like a perfect example of that. Like it's such a dark episode, but yet so hopeful in the fact that all of his friends are there. I mean, even Chevy Chase gets a really good moment of that, and he has so rarely few because of who he was on that show. And so like that kind of stuff is popping up in AP Bio in a way that I really like, but it's not enough of it yet for me. So I really hope it leans more into that like loving atmosphere. Like I don't mind that it's dark. I love like the really like dark humor of it. Like the idea that he finds out that his friend in teacher jail is actually kind of a horrible person who touches people inappropriately, but there's still this element of like him being like, you know, like I care about you, man. I don't want you to be like this. Is like a really great like darkly comedic story that you'd never get. Like nobody dares to do stories like that. So like I'm excited for more AP Bio. I just hope that it really leans more into that kinder comedy. You know, I don't mind that the world is dark. I just want the comedy to be kind. Like,
But okay, so
can't...
that's hilarious to me that's what works for AP Bio for you, because why I like that show is I like my shows with heart. I love a show with heart. Growing Up Fisher, I believe was the name of it, where J.K. Simmons played a blind man. Problematic, I get it. Moving past that part of it, that show was full of heart. Like it wore its heart on its sleeve, and I'm like, so the show's not gonna last. Where AP Bio has got tons of heart, but it has it so buried underneath that I'm like, this show will last. This show might get to a second season if it figures out what it wants to do. Like the fact that the episode that introduces, I'm trying to think of what they're trying to do to Mason in that episode. Because that's what it, it's the bookstore, right? He's trying to get into the bookstore.
The third one, sorry,
that's the third one, right?
Yeah. That's the third one.
Sorry, that episode where like I don't know, it really worked for me, like on a lot of different levels. But
awesome.
You could tell that they don't know what to do, because you have that episode that's like a lot of heart and like solidarity in this shitty situation that we're in, but then you have the episode where he just hates everything and is choosing to like pull that out on the bookstore and focus his anger there. Like it's been too unbalanced through 3 episodes.
No, it definitely needs to find its footing. But that's exactly my point, right? Is I'm having a real hard time with a lot of these late season ads, and that's unfortunate because we've had two years or so of like really good surprises in these late season shows, and I just haven't gotten that big surprise yet that I'm like in love with.
I don't think 2017-18 season, I can't think of any new sitcoms that really work for me.
Yeah. Well, I will say specifically sitcoms is what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're talking specifically, show-wise.
Because all I will talk about at the moment, all I will say about it at the moment is Black Lightning, fuck yeah, but like we're going to need to dedicate some time to that after I've seen a good solid couple of episodes. But man, that pilot is one of the most beautiful pilots I've seen in a long time for a fucking Arrowverse show. Like it was fantastic. Anyway, sorry, but sitcom wise,
I'm talking sitcom wise. The only new sitcom that really hit on every level for me was that's not true. Was Me, Myself, and I. The one that was freaking, I can't think of his name, Bobby Moynihan and John Larroquette, like the 3 eras in their life. That show really worked for me. 7 episodes canceled. And again, it's because it was too much heart. It wore its heart too hard on its sleeve. But then, you know what, Sejohn? I forgot about it. And watch it. There's 5 episodes. They're out there. They're readily available. LA to Vegas.
Yeah, I've heard good things about LA to Vegas. I don't know. A part of me is worried about the premise. Like, it seems like it'd be funny for like 5 or 6 episodes, but I don't know if they could maintain it for a series. So we'll see how that goes.
So let's pretend right now that we're in 1982, right? Have you heard about this new show, Cheers? Yeah, but I'm worried about the premise.
Wings would have been the better one to go to, but yeah.
No, but Wings isn't the time, right? But that was the thing with Cheers. Like 100%, people are like, how much are people going to want to watch them sitting at a bar? Like eventually, that's going to get tired, because LA to Vegas, it's not like Wings. It is 100%. It reminds me of Cheers, because but their bar, their regular destination, is the flight from Los Angeles to Vegas and the flight from Vegas to Los Angeles. So you have these people who are always on that flight because they're always doing that every weekend. And those are the characters. That's your Norm. That's your Cliff. And that's what works for me, is that it's one of these situational things where you get the benefit of different passengers every week, right? So you have that sort of built-in guest of the week.
Right. Yeah,
thing.
Almost a Love Boat style, like guest of the week.
Because that's where Cheers worked, right? Is because anybody could come into fucking Cheers.
Yeah, anybody
but then you also have, Ted Danson. And like the closest one-to-one comparison from LA to Vegas is Cheers. And that's not just because I'm a huge fan of Cheers. It just works. That's how it works, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Cool. Well, I'll definitely give that one a shot then too. I have by no stretch hit everything that's come out yet. Like, I still want to check out the new Ted Mosby not Smash. What is it called? Rise. Yeah. I still want to check out that drama.
The fact that you would compare it to Smash is fucking blasphemy. It is trying to capture the whole left from Glee.
Yeah.
not the whole left from
No,
Smash.
I is it the whole left from Glee? Is it like a straight up
It's a
musical
high
every
school.
episode?
It's in a high
I
school.
get that. I get that it's a high school musical that they're putting
Okay,
on,
there we
but
go. There we
it's
go.
not.
Yep, done.
It feels like it's like Boston Public meets Smash. That's what it feels like.
It feels like Glee. It feels like Glee, but in the world of Friday Night Lights. Like will not be surprised if someone ends up dead and then they
See,
freaking drop it the next season.
the thing about, but the thing about Glee is like you can't. The, it's not a musical every episode, right? Like they're not singing every episode.
I think they
At
are.
least
They
that's
sang
not the
every
impression I've
episode in
gotten.
Smash.
Exactly. Okay.
So
But
it's
they
a bad
sang
example
because
either
of
way.
the show being on. Right. Like there was a reason they were singing every episode. Like
Nope,
Glee was straight up like
nope. You're wrong. Did you watch Smash or did you just form an opinion?
I watched 3 episodes of Smashed, but my point is it's not a musical every episode, right? Like that is the impression that I've gotten is that it is not a musical.
Oh, I think it's
That
going
it
to
is
be a
about
musical every episode. I think it's going to be a musical every episode. I 100% believe there will be a musical number in every episode of the show.
All right. Well,
And I am not watching it to
not
prove
get
that,
impression.
Sejohn. I am not.
I did
I
not
have
get
no
that
desire to
impression.
watch Josh Rancor's new show. None.
Hey, that's fine. You don't have to.
None.
And I probably won't stick with it. It doesn't look like it's going to be one of those ones I'm sticking with, but I still want to check it out.
It's going to
like,
get 6 fucking seasons in a goddamn movie.
it's about arts education in high school. So like that's the hook for me is I want to see how they handle
Oh, it's
that.
probably
particular subject
already
matter.
lost its funding.
Yeah, I like that's the storyline hook that I care about is that if it turns out that there is music, like it is a straight up musical, I am not watching that show. I have no desire to see that every week. It's the same problem I had with Glee is I was like, this is fascinating for all of a hot minute, but then I can't put up with this for longer than like 3 episodes, and then I was done. And Glee was a half an hour long.
Glee was an hour.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Glee was an
I haven't
hour.
watched it since 2008. When did it start? 2007.
I don't remember.
Yeah, like that was the last time I watched Glee.
2009 it started because I'm pretty sure this is the beautiful mind stuff that happens in my head. I'm pretty sure it was the second season when Gwyneth Paltrow was on and sang "Fuck You" by CeeLo Green, and then that song became the song of New Year's Eve 2010. Because I heard that song so many friggin' times that night. And threw up on a television.
Oh god,
That was a weird night.
Ah man, but yeah, I like there's a bunch of shows that have that I've not hit yet. That who knows, maybe I will find that thing that I actually like. But it's been hard this year. Whereas in the last couple of years, like I've hit on it pretty instantly. You know, a couple of years ago it was Real O'Neill's. Superstore was also in there too. That was kind of amazing. And then what was last year? There was a couple of late season ones last year that were pretty good too.
I don't know. You don't watch CBS, and that's pretty much all I watch.
Well, the problem is that I don't have cable, and there's no real other way to watch CBS if you don't pay for a cable package or have an antenna, and I just don't have that.
You don't want to get CBS All Access? I mean, I wouldn't, because it only has like 5 episodes, and you're paying for it.
Yeah, and that had only been an option in the last like 6 months, you know. So like,
because as I think about the CBS stuff, and it's Man with a Plan is fantastic. I am so happy that Matt LeBlanc is on TV again and not in episodes. Like getting to actually act is awesome. Him acting is good. The Will and Grace revival has really blown me away, but we've talked about that.
Yeah,
and how like they were in stasis
and those
for
are
a
all
reason.
things. Those are all things that I'd love to watch, but like I don't care to get a CB. Like it's right on that line of like I would totally watch them if they were on Hulu. Like I'd be all in, and they'd be getting all sorts of advertising and money dollars.
Well,
from me
Will
if
and
they
Grace
were...
is on Hulu because it's NBC.
Oh,
You should
I thought we were
definitely
talking
check
about
it out.
CBS stuff.
No. But it made
like-
me think about people who are back on TV.
Yeah,
Talking about
like
Matt
for instance,
LeBlanc.
The Odd Couple. The Odd Couple's like the big thing that I was like on the fence about possibly paying for, and now that's ended, coming to an end. I don't even
It's
know. because I
over,
don't watch it.
and it
Right.
just ended
So,
too.
like,
No fanfare, and that show was great. I legitimately
That was
enjoyed
that's
that
the sort of
show.
thing that like I would be willing to pay for CBS All Access for, but now it doesn't even exist, and like it was one show out of God knows what I'd have to pay for that one particular thing. Yeah, I don't know. CBS has to get its act together, but we've talked about that before.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the streaming landscape. But people freaking love Star Trek Discovery, if your brother is to be believed. So
Yeah. I I yeah. Good for
that's
him.
fine. That's fine. We don't need to say any more. We both understood what was meant and what was said. Moving forward, what I had to think. All right, since we're talking about TV, this might be a good place to end it. The new Roseanne. Do you have any desire?
Curiosity, not desire. Like a morbid curiosity to check it out, but I don't really have any desire to see this actually succeed. Like and that's a mean way of putting it, but like everything that they've done and said so far about what they want that show to be now is not what I want from Roseanne. It does not seem like the Roseanne that I remember or cared about. And I didn't and let's not act like I had some major love for Roseanne. Like I accepted it for what it was at the time, and in my older age am now recognizing it for how important it was at the time. But whereas like I think a few months ago we mentioned it and I was curious and kind of interested, now I'm curious but not interested. So like it's definitely going to be the show that I read about on IO9 the next morning every day. Like that's the kind of show it's fallen. That's the space in my head it's fallen into at this point.
I can 100% agree with that. Because, again, we did talk about it before, but now that I'm seeing promos, like, while I'm watching TV,
Yeah.
every promo, I'm not going to watch you.
Yeah,
Like,
or and listening to all of the weird like
things that they're doing.
yeah, like the weird releasing of information about what's going on in that show. The fact that they even feel they need to drip that kind of information out is weird.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. But it's like, the more I hear, the more I'm like, yeah, no. Whereas Will and Grace, it just feels like nothing changed. It
Hmm.
feels like the show has always been on. Like, I'm
Well,
so
and I
impressed
think that
by
was
Will and
the big
Grace.
experiment, right? Was they
Yeah.
were just like, right, does the show work now in a post gay rights world, right? Like now that we're all open and loving about this stuff, which we weren't when that show was first on, does this show still work? Hey, surprise, surprise, it does actually, right? Like,
So yeah, you
and
watch at least the first 4 episodes of the new Will and Grace. They're
cool.
available, and it's and the problem is I can't remember which episode it is, but one of them has the guy who played Benji in the Pitch Perfect movies, the magician.
Nice.
Him and Will are dating, and it 100% addresses what you just said about how the show exists in a world where like everybody's okay with it.
Yeah,
and
where
that and
yeah.
that was one of the strongest episodes of the show so far.
I have watched a weirdly awkward amount of one episode of that show, and I couldn't tell you what episode it was. When I was on
What
a
has happened in it?
plane,
Please tell me
oh
more.
god. So it seemed like it was the pilot because it was the reintroduction of Sean Hayes, I think. Because as soon as he walked on, there was a straight up almost you could feel like a standing ovation in the crowd when he walked on screen. So I feel like it was that first moment in the first episode when he walks in, but it was like 12 minutes worth like of that episode, which is weird because it's not that long of a show. So why they didn't anyway? I was on a plane and NBC was basically doing this like NBC All Access like Delta Airlines. So you Delta Airlines special. So like you're watching it on the screen in front of you, and they start off with an interview with Deborah Messing and all of them, right? And then all of a sudden it cuts into the episode, but like clearly a few minutes in, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be like a 2 or 3 minute clip, right? Except it just kept going and going, and I was like, oh, maybe they're just going to show a whole episode, and then it weirdly ended like not quite 10 minutes later, but not quite 15. So it's just like, why was this chosen? It wasn't a good arc. It wasn't a good beginning or end. It was just a really awkward middle of an episode.
So you know what that is 100%, because fuck NBC. And this is me. This is where we're ending it, right? I've come up with a new flip off, right? You put an open hand behind your middle finger, and that's a
Hmm.
peacock flipping you off. That's peacock flipping you off, NBC. Like, hard. They do this thing where, like, at 3 a.m. on Saturday morning, they show these weird, like, 12-minute previews of their shows that are already popular. So, like, This Is Us has one, Will and Grace has one, Good Place had one.
Oh, this sounds exactly like what I watched. Those were the three shows that were in this thing.
So that's what you got to watch. But the thing is, if you have a DVR, it doesn't like say that it's a sneak peek or anything. It just says that it's a new of that stuff. So then like Saturday you're like, "Oh, there was something new?" And then you put it on and it's a fucking trailer for a show you're already watching and devoted to. But like but it's so weird and like it's like hitting you over the head with like
That's actually kind of insidious because that means that Nielsen now tracks those types of numbers, those DVR numbers.
Yep.
And if they're getting hit with a recording of a new thing at that time, and everybody's DVR is set to record the next new episode, that means that they're getting 2 views a week, whereas they would have only been getting 1 before.
You are correct, Sejohn. That's why I Peacock flipped them off.
That is fucking gross.
Welcome to the thing that like I delete them immediately because my father will sit and watch them. And it's like, it's new though. And it's like, no, but it's not. You're watching an infomercial for a TV show that you watch. And you have episodes of the show that you could be watching. What are you doing?
All right. Check this. This is how deep this rabbit hole goes, right? So what they did is they set it up so that this machine just splices out these episode things and just throws it out there, right? And then the machine in your house says, I'm going to record it, so that it gives it an extra view to the first machine. And so the machines are working in tandem to get extra views for these corporations now. I'm telling you, this is how it starts. This is Skynet.
This is Skynet. On that note, thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Say Report. I've been Devon Decker. If you'd like to yell at me about how the 50 Shades movies are terrible, why not reach me on Twitter at Devon D. Decker?
Yeah, I guess you can use the machines to get in touch with us. At SiegeVerWorld. Watch out what you put on there because it'll keep everything.
And not only will it keep everything, it will replicate in order to create more and more and more until its fingers have dug so deep that we cannot separate the machines from our lives without fear of dying. It'll be a symbiotic relationship.
We'll become batteries. Wachowskis knew what was up.
No. Why are you going to make about the Matrix? Will, take the red pill.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Selwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.